The stars glittered like diamonds against the black void as the UEC scout ship Aurora cruised through the outer edge of the Europa defense zone. Captain Ellie Reeves stood at the view screen, her brown eyes scanning the sensor readings with practiced ease. After 15 years in space, she had developed an instinct for trouble. "All systems normal, Captain," said Jack Miller from his navigation console. His fingers danced across the controls as he adjusted their course slightly to avoid a patch of space debris. Ellie nodded. "Lisa, anything unusual on the long-range scans?" Science Officer Lisa Wong shook her head, her dark ponytail swinging with the movement. "Nothing yet, Captain. Just the usual radiation patterns and—" She stopped, leaning closer to her screen. "Wait, I'm picking up something strange at the edge of our scanning range." Security Chief Daniel Garcia looked up from his weapons console, instantly alert. The former Marine had survived 3 campaigns on Mars, and his instincts were rarely wrong. "Asteroid." "No," Lisa replied, her voice growing tense. "It's moving too fast and changing direction." Captain, I think it's a ship. But it's huge, at least 3 times our size, and it's not matching any known configurations." Ellie felt a chill run down her spine. Humanity had been expanding through the solar system for decades, but despite all their searching, they had never encountered intelligent alien life. Until now, perhaps. "Yellow alert," she ordered. "Jack, keep us at a safe distance. Lisa, gather all the data you can. Daniel, ready defensive systems, but do not power weapons unless I give the order." The bridge crew moved with efficient precision as the Aurora maintained its position. The mysterious object grew closer, appearing on the main view screen. It was unlike anything they had ever seen. A massive vessel with a design that seemed impossible, angles and structures that defied human engineering principles. "Captain," Lisa said, her voice barely above a whisper, "it's scanning us." Before Ellie could respond, the ship shuddered violently. Warning lights flashed across all consoles as systems began failing one by one. "We're caught in some kind of energy field," Jack shouted, fighting with his controls. "Engines are not responding." Daniel's hands flew across his console. "Defensive shields failing. Whatever they're using, it's cutting through our technology like it's nothing." Ellie grabbed the command console as the ship lurched again. "Open communications on all frequencies. This is Captain Ellie Reeves of the United Earth Coalition scout ship Aurora. We are on a peaceful mission of exploration. Please cease your attack and state your intentions." The only answer was another violent shudder as the lights dimmed completely before emergency power kicked in. The view screen crackled with static before displaying an image that made the entire bridge crew freeze. A towering reptilian figure stood in what appeared to be the command center of the alien vessel. Its scales gleamed like polished metal under strange lights, and eyes with vertical pupils studied them with cold intelligence. Bony protrusions formed natural armor over vital areas of its body. When it spoke, its voice was deep and resonant, somehow translated into understandable English. "Primitive species detected. Physical parameters indicate minimal threat level. Specimens will be collected for study. Resistance is unnecessary and inefficient." The transmission cut off as the Aurora was pulled inexorably toward the massive alien ship. "Captain, 2 more vessels just appeared," Lisa reported, her voice cracking with tension. "They're heading for the Europa outposts." Ellie watched in horror as distant flashes lit up the blackness of space. The outposts, home to over 300 colonists, erupted in explosions visible even at this distance. "Send emergency distress signal to Earth Command," Ellie ordered, her voice steady despite the chaos. "Include all sensor data on the alien vessels." Daniel looked up from his console, his face grim. "Signal sent, but I don't think help will arrive in time." The Aurora shuddered one final time as it was drawn into the massive hold of the alien ship. The crew shared a look of determination. Whatever waited for them, they would face it together. None of them realized they were about to teach the galaxy why humans were the most dangerous species in the universe. Ellie Reeves woke up in a cell with smooth metallic walls that had a strange purple glow. Her head throbbed as she sat up on the hard platform that served as a bed. The events before their capture rushed back into her mind. She couldn't see her crew anywhere. Jack? Lisa? Daniel? She called out, her voice echoing in the small space. A section of the wall suddenly became transparent, revealing a corridor outside. Two of the reptilian aliens stood watching her. They were even more intimidating up close. Each stood over 8 feet tall with powerful muscles visible beneath their scaled skin. The natural armor plates covering their chests and shoulders gleamed under the strange lights. One alien pressed something on the wall, and the transparent section disappeared. In its place, an opening formed. The aliens gestured for her to come out. Ellie stepped cautiously through the opening. She noticed 5 other aliens standing in the corridor, all carrying weapons that looked like advanced energy rifles. "Follow," one of them commanded in that same deep voice she had heard on the view screen. The translation seemed to come from a small device on its armor. With no choice, Ellie walked between her captors through a series of corridors. Everything was built on a larger scale, designed for beings much taller than humans. They passed several other cells containing creatures she had never seen before, some with multiple limbs, others with strange skin colors and body shapes. Finally, they entered a massive chamber that took Ellie's breath away. It was a circular room with a high ceiling, and in the center sat an enormous alien on what could only be described as a throne. Its scales were darker than the others, almost black, with gold patterns running along the edges. A crown-like structure of bone and metal sat upon its head. "Supreme Commander Krazoth," announced one of her guards, bowing deeply. The Supreme Commander's vertical pupils narrowed as they focused on Ellie. "So this is the captain of the human vessel. Smaller than I expected." Ellie stood tall despite her fear. "I am Captain Ellie Reeves of the United Earth Coalition. You attacked us without provocation and destroyed our outposts. Those were civilian settlements." A sound like grinding stones came from the Supreme Commander. Ellie realized it was laughter. "Your species is new to the stars. You know nothing of the galactic hegemony or its rules. Your settlements were in territory claimed by the Jarek Empire. We are within our rights." "Where is my crew?" Ellie demanded. "Your companions live. They have been sent to different training facilities." "Training facilities? For what purpose?" Supreme Commander Krazoth leaned forward. "The galactic hegemony consists of over 30 species competing for resources and territory. Position and rights are determined through the combat trials. As newcomers, humans will enter at the lowest tier." A holographic display appeared in the center of the room, showing a complex ranking system with various alien species arranged in a hierarchy. At the top were the Jarek. "Your physical attributes are unimpressive," continued Krazoth. "No natural weapons, limited strength, fragile skin, poor sensory capabilities. It is unlikely your species will survive long in the trials, but it will be entertaining to observe your attempts." Ellie felt anger rising inside her. "You're making a mistake judging humans by our physical attributes alone." This prompted more of the stone-grinding laughter from the assembled Jarek. "What else should matter in combat? Your species has never faced warriors like the Mekthar or the Vorn. Some can crush stone with their bare hands. Others have toxins that can kill with a touch. And yet here I stand, willing to face whatever challenges you set before me." Ellie replied steadily. Something like respect flickered in Krazoth's alien eyes. "Courage, at least, you do not lack. It will make your defeat more meaningful. You will begin training tomorrow for the upcoming combat trials." As guards led Ellie away, she caught glimpses of enormous training arenas through viewports in the corridors. Alien warriors of various species fought in simulated battlefields, displaying strength and abilities far beyond human capability. But Ellie smiled slightly. The aliens had no idea what they had just started. They would soon learn why humans were the deadliest warriors in the universe. Daniel Garcia stood in a massive training arena alongside 20 alien warriors. Each was at least twice his size, with natural weapons like claws, fangs, or armored skin. The Jarek trainer, a battle-scarred veteran named Krell, walked between them, evaluating each with cold eyes. "Human," Krell said, stopping in front of Daniel. "Your species has no place among warriors. Your bones break easily. Your skin tears. You have no claws or fangs." He gestured to a hulking creature nearby. "The Vorn can crush your skull with one hand." Daniel remained silent, watching and learning. For 3 days, he had observed the training sessions, noting how each species fought, their strengths and weaknesses. While the aliens focused only on power and speed, Daniel saw patterns and possibilities they ignored. "Today you will face your first combat exercise," Krell announced. "Human, you will fight Goran of the Vorn." The creature stepped forward. It stood 9 feet tall with gray, stone-like skin and muscles that bulged like small boulders. Its fists were the size of Daniel's head. The other aliens moved to the edges of the arena, many making sounds that Daniel recognized as laughter. They expected to see him crushed quickly. "Begin," Krell commanded. Goran charged forward with surprising speed, roaring as he raised his massive fists. Instead of backing away in fear, Daniel sprinted directly toward the giant alien. At the last moment, he dropped and slid between Goran's legs. The Vorn, unable to stop his momentum, crashed into the wall. Daniel was already moving, sprinting toward a section of the arena where he had noticed loose flooring during previous sessions. Goran recovered and charged again. This time, Daniel lured him to the weak spot. As the massive alien stepped onto the loose section, Daniel grabbed a training staff from the wall and jammed it into the floor gap. Using the staff as a lever, he pried up the floor panel just as Goran stepped on it. The Vorn's foot plunged through, trapping his leg. While Goran struggled to free himself, Daniel climbed up the nearby wall using small handholds that the larger aliens had never noticed. From above, he leaped onto Goran's back and pressed a finger precisely against a nerve cluster where the neck met the shoulder, a vulnerability he had observed during medical scans displayed in the training area. The giant Vorn froze, then collapsed to his knees, temporarily paralyzed. Silence fell over the arena. The Jarek observers stared in disbelief. Krell approached slowly, his vertical pupils wide with surprise. "How did you defeat a Vorn warrior without strength?" he demanded. Daniel shrugged. "I used what I had: observation, the environment, knowledge of anatomy." In another part of the station, Lisa Wong faced her own challenges. Assigned to a science division because of her background, she was given the task of cataloging alien biological specimens. The Jarek scientists dismissed her, expecting little contribution. But Lisa had been carefully studying the alien physiology data. During a training simulation, where participants had to subdue a dangerous creature, she demonstrated a technique that used minimal force against specific pressure points she had identified. The alien scientists watched in astonishment as she neutralized a predator 3 times her size with precise, calculated touches. Meanwhile, Jack Miller shocked his instructors in flight simulations. Given an unfamiliar alien craft with controls designed for beings with 4 arms, he quickly adapted. When pitted against experienced Jarek pilots in a training exercise, Jack didn't try to outmuscle or outgun them. Instead, he used the environmental features: asteroid fields, radiation belts, and gravitational anomalies to outmaneuver his pursuers, flying in patterns they considered irrational and dangerous. After these demonstrations, the Jarek trainers gathered in a secure chamber, discussing their observations with growing concern. "They don't win through strength," said one. "The human named Garcia defeated a Vorn using the environment and knowledge," replied another. "This is not combat as we understand it." "Perhaps," said Krell slowly, "we have underestimated these creatures." Captain Ellie Reeves stood beside 30 other warriors from different species. They had gathered at the edge of a vast arena designed to look like a desert. The red sand stretched for miles under 3 blazing suns. In the far distance, barely visible as a green dot on the horizon, was their goal, an oasis. Supreme Commander Krazoth's voice boomed over the speakers. The endurance trial begins now. You must reach the oasis 50 miles away. The first 10 to arrive will advance to the next level. There is little water. The temperature will reach 130 degrees during peak daylight. Begin. The massive aliens around Ellie immediately sprinted forward. The Jarek moved with powerful strides that ate up the distance. The 4-armed Mechthar bounded across the sand like giant grasshoppers. Even the heavy-bodied Vorn lumbered forward at impressive speeds. Ellie didn't run. She walked at a steady pace, conserving her energy. She tore strips from her uniform and wrapped them around her head for protection from the suns. She had survived desert training on Earth. She knew that rushing in this heat was suicide. From a control room above the arena, a group of Jarek scientists watched with interest. The human female makes no effort to compete, one noted. Perhaps she accepts her defeat already. Chief Scientist Kalur shook his head. Continue observation. There may be strategy we do not yet understand. Hours passed. The temperature rose steadily. Many of the larger aliens began to slow, their massive bodies generating too much heat with exertion. Some collapsed in the sand, their systems overwhelmed. The Jarek competitors pushed on through sheer willpower, but even they showed signs of strain. Ellie maintained her pace. She didn't stop during the hottest part of the day. She didn't sprint when the temperature dropped slightly. She simply kept moving forward, one foot after another, hour after hour. As darkness fell, bringing a brief respite from the heat, the scientists checked their monitoring equipment. Impossible, one hissed. The human's core temperature has barely changed since the beginning of the trial. Kalor leaned closer to the screen. Look at her movement pattern. Consistent speed, no wasted energy. But she has covered less than half the distance of the leading competitors, argued another scientist. Yet she has not stopped once, Kalor pointed out, while the others, on another screen, they could see the Jarek and other leading competitors had all stopped for rest during the night. Their massive bodies needed recovery time. Their metabolisms, evolved for bursts of power, couldn't sustain continuous exertion. As the alien scientists watched, a new understanding began to dawn. Through the long night, Ellie kept walking. When the second day broke, many competitors still lay exhausted where they had collapsed. Others had pushed too hard and suffered heat stroke or dehydration. By midday, Ellie had passed several of the larger aliens who had initially sprinted ahead. In the control room, the atmosphere had changed from dismissive to concerned. Her physiology is designed for this, Kalur said, studying the data. Efficient cooling through sweat. Slow twitch muscle fibers for endurance rather than power. The human body evolved specifically for persistence hunting. A predator that never stops. Another scientist said quietly. It follows until its prey collapses from exhaustion. By the evening of the second day, only 12 competitors remained in the race. 3 Jarek warriors led the pack, but they staggered now, their mighty bodies pushed to their limits. Behind them came Ellie Reeves, still moving at the same steady pace she had maintained from the beginning. As night fell again, the scientists watched in astonishment as the human passed the exhausted Jarek warriors, one by one. Her pace never faltered. Her determination never wavered. When she reached the oasis, Ellie Reeves was the 4th competitor to complete the trial, finishing ahead of warriors from species considered far superior in strength and power. In the control room, Kalor turned to his colleagues. We have greatly underestimated the humans. They may be physically weaker, but they possess endurance unlike anything in the hegemony. A species that never stops, never gives up, is the most dangerous kind of warrior, finished Supreme Commander Krazoth, who had been silently observing from the shadows. The human crew reunited for the first time since their capture. They stood in a ready room, preparing for the strategic warfare scenario that would determine if they advanced to the semifinals. "It's good to see you all alive," Ellie said, looking at her crew with pride. Each had succeeded in ways that stunned their alien captors. "They're beginning to fear us," Daniel said quietly. "I've seen the way the Jurek guards watch me now. They don't understand how I beat their strongest warriors." Lisa nodded. "Their scientists keep running tests on me. They can't figure out how I identified weaknesses in alien physiology that they never noticed themselves." Jack grinned. "My flight instructor actually asked me to teach him some of my irrational flying techniques." A door slid open. Krell, the battle-scarred Jurek trainer, entered with Supreme Commander Krozov himself. The humans stood straighter, facing the alien leaders without fear. "You faced the Mechthar today," Krozov announced. "They are a hive-mind species with perfect coordination in battle. No individual fighter has ever defeated them in a tactical scenario." "We're individuals, not a hive mind," Ellie pointed out. Krell made that stone-grinding laugh. "Exactly. The Mechthar will predict and counter your every move through their shared consciousness. Your defeat will be swift." After the aliens left, Ellie gathered her crew close. "They expect us to lose because we can't communicate telepathically like the Mechthar. But we have something they don't. Unpredictability," Daniel said. "Creativity," added Lisa. "And they have no idea how well humans work together," Jack finished. The combat arena had been transformed into a miniature battlefield with obstacles, barriers, and various terrain features. The humans received basic weapons and minimal protective gear. On the opposite side, 12 Mechthar warriors prepared. They resembled tall, thin humanoids with blue skin and 4 arms each. They moved in perfect unison, like dancers following invisible cues. From the viewing platform, Jurek officials and scientists watched with interest. Supreme Commander Krozov sat in a throne-like chair, vertical pupils focused on the humans. "Begin," announced the referee. The Mechthar moved immediately, spreading out in a perfect formation. Their coordinated attack pattern was flawless, designed to trap and eliminate enemies one by one. But the humans did something unexpected. Instead of trying to match the Mechthar's perfect coordination, each human adopted completely different tactics. Jack climbed to a high position and began using pieces of his gear to create reflections and distractions. Lisa gathered materials from the arena floor and quickly assembled makeshift devices that produced smoke and confusion. Daniel engaged in direct combat, but used erratic, unpredictable movements that the hive mind couldn't anticipate. Ellie appeared to retreat, but was actually setting traps and creating false patterns to mislead the Mechthar's shared consciousness. The Jurek observers watched in growing astonishment. The Mechthar, used to opponents who tried to match their coordination with rigid tactics, couldn't adapt to the humans' seemingly chaotic approach. "What are they doing?" one Jurek scientist asked. "There's no pattern to their actions." Fleur studied the battle intently. "But there is. Look closer. They communicate without speaking, using subtle signals we can barely detect. Hand gestures, facial expressions, body language. And each adapts their strategy moment by moment," added another scientist. "The Mechthar predict actions based on past behavior, but the humans change continuously." On the battlefield, the Mechthar's perfect formation began to break down. Their hive mind, confronted with 4 humans using completely different and constantly changing tactics, couldn't maintain its advantage. The humans created confusion, used the environment creatively, and employed psychological warfare by setting up decoys and false targets. When the simulation ended, the humans stood victorious. The Mechthar had been defeated for the first time in the history of the combat trials. In the observation room, Supreme Commander Krozov turned to Kuller. "How did they win? They have no shared consciousness, no superior strength." The scientist's reply was thoughtful. They have something we've never encountered before: creativity, improvisation, psychological warfare. Each human functions independently, but somehow forms a cohesive unit more flexible than a hive mind. Krazoth watched as the humans celebrated their victory. "Begin a comprehensive study of human psychology," he ordered. "They are becoming far too interesting to eliminate." Emperor Krazoth paced in his private chamber, his clawed feet clicking against the metallic floor. Chief Scientist Killer stood nearby, watching his leader with concern. "The humans continue to advance through the combat trials," Killer reported. "They should have been eliminated in the first rounds. Instead, they defeat species with natural advantages we thought insurmountable." Krazoth stopped pacing. "They are becoming a problem. The other species watch them closely now. Some even try to imitate their methods. Perhaps it is time to truly test their limits," Vkalar suggested carefully. "We have never subjected competitors to the fear chambers before the final rounds, but these humans require special attention." The Emperor's vertical pupils narrowed. "Do it." The next morning, guards separated the humans and took them to different parts of the station. Helly found herself in a small, dark room with no visible exits. The walls pulsed with a strange energy. "Captain Ellie Reeves," came a voice from hidden speakers. "You now enter the fear chamber. We will explore your psychological limits. Few species maintain combat effectiveness when facing their deepest fears." The room transformed around her. Suddenly, Ellie stood on the bridge of the Aurora. Her crew lay dead at her feet. Earth appeared on the view screen, burning as Sharuk warships bombarded the planet. The simulation felt completely real. She could smell smoke, feel heat from fires, hear the screams of dying humans. In another chamber, Daniel faced his own nightmare, finding himself back in the Mars campaigns, watching his entire unit die while he remained helpless to save them. The simulation recreated every detail of his worst memories and amplified them. Lisa's chamber became a suffocating underwater prison, exploiting her childhood fear of drowning. Jack found himself drifting alone in space with a failing oxygen supply, his greatest fear as a navigator. From the control center, Vkalar and other scientists monitored the humans' vital signs and brain activity. They had used the same tests on other species, always with the same results. Subjects became paralyzed with fear, their minds unable to function under such psychological stress. But the humans reacted differently. Ellie, standing amidst the devastation of her simulated ship, took a deep breath. Her heart rate spiked initially but then steadied. She began methodically checking systems, looking for ways to save survivors, refusing to accept the hopeless scenario presented to her. Daniel, surrounded by dying comrades, started applying emergency medical techniques, creating makeshift barricades, and developing escape routes, fighting against the programmed outcome. Lisa, rather than panicking in her underwater prison, began counting her breaths, conserving oxygen, and searching for structural weaknesses in her confinement. Jack, drifting in space, used debris around him to try to signal for help and calculated how to maximize his remaining air. "Fascinating," Vkalar said, studying the readings. "Their stress levels are extremely high, but rather than shutting down, their problem-solving abilities appear to increase." Another scientist checked different screens. They acknowledge the fear but continue functioning despite it. Their brains release chemicals that actually enhance performance under duress. They evolved on a death world, Vkalar realized. Their history must be filled with disasters, predators, and threats. Those who froze in fear would not survive. Those who functioned despite fear passed on their genes. After hours in the fear chambers, far longer than any other species had endured, the humans emerged exhausted but unbroken. When they reunited, they shared their experiences, helping each other process what they had faced. Emperor Krazoth watched the recordings with growing concern. These humans possess a psychological resilience unlike anything we've encountered. When faced with fear and hopelessness, they become more determined rather than submissive. Kulor nodded slowly. A species that grows stronger through adversity is nearly impossible to subjugate through conventional means. They are more dangerous than we ever imagined, the Emperor said. Not because of strength or natural weapons, but because of something we cannot see or easily counter: their minds and their will. As the humans prepared for the semifinal trial, whispers spread through the hegemony. The physically weak newcomers had demonstrated qualities that challenged everything the warrior species thought they knew about combat and survival. The semifinal arena was massive, designed to resemble a ruined city with crumbling buildings, narrow streets, and hidden dangers. The human team stood at one end, facing their most difficult challenge yet: the collective consciousness of the Hyrrakian Dominion, the current champions of the combat trials. "The rules are simple," announced the referee. "Capture the opponent's base or eliminate all enemy combatants." The Hyrrakians have been granted 10 warriors. The humans, as the lower-ranked species, are allowed only their original 4. From the viewing platform, Emperor Krazov and hundreds of aliens from various species watched with intense interest. The humans had become the unexpected stars of the combat trials, and many wondered if their winning streak would finally end against the overwhelming odds. Ellie gathered her crew close. "We're outnumbered and using inferior equipment. Any ideas?" "We can't match them directly," Daniel said, "but we've made some connections during our time here." Lisa nodded. "The Vorn I helped in the medical bay owes me a favor, and the Mechthar have been asking about our tactics since we defeated them." "The Jarek expect us to fight alone," Jack added. "They've never seen humans form alliances." Ellie smiled. "Then let's show them something new." As the trial began, the Hyrrakians moved with perfect precision. They resembled tall humanoids with 6 limbs and reflective golden skin. Their movements showed years of combat experience and flawless coordination. The humans didn't attempt to engage directly. Instead, they split up, each heading to different sections of the arena. The Hyrrakians, confused by this approach, divided their forces to pursue. What happened next shocked the watching audience. As Daniel fled down an alley, a massive Vorn warrior who had been eliminated in earlier rounds stepped out from hiding to block the pursuing Hyrrakians. Though not officially in the competition, the Vorn had smuggled himself into the arena to repay his debt to Lisa. In another section, Jack led his pursuers into an ambush where 3 Mechthar waited. The Mechthar, curious about human tactics, had decided to observe from inside the arena and now chose to intervene. "What is happening?" Emperor Krazov demanded, rising from his seat. "The other species are aiding the humans." Klor studied the battlefield displays. "The humans have formed alliances across species boundaries. They've created the first cross-species coalition in trial history." On the battlefield, Ellie demonstrated another uniquely human quality: flexible leadership. Unlike the rigid hierarchies of the Jarek or the hive mind unity of other species, she allowed each team member to make decisions independently based on the situation. When Lisa developed a better strategy, Ellie immediately adopted it. When Jack suggested a risky maneuver, she trusted his judgment. This adaptive cooperation allowed them to outmaneuver the numerically superior Hyrrakians. The human team, along with their unlikely allies, steadily pushed forward, using communication and coordination that baffled their opponents. "This is unprecedented," one Jarek official whispered. "They're changing the fundamental nature of the trials." Emperor Krazoth watched with growing alarm. The combat trials had always reinforced the dominance hierarchy of the hegemony: strong species at the top, weaker ones serving those above them. The humans were demonstrating something far more dangerous than any natural weapon: the ability to unite diverse groups toward a common goal. When the humans finally captured the Hyrrakian base, a stunned silence fell over the viewing platform. Then, gradually, cheers erupted from the representatives of smaller, less powerful species. They looked at the humans with new hope. "They've won the semifinal," V'Kalor stated the obvious. "They'd done far more than that," Emperor Krazov replied grimly. They've challenged the entire foundation of the hegemony. A physically weak species should not be able to defeat the strongest. It defies the natural order. Yet they did, V'Kalor said, by creating something we've never seen before, true cooperation across species boundaries. The Emperor's expression darkened. Prepare the final trial. The humans will face our Jarek champions. He paused, watching as other species surrounded the human team, eager to communicate with them. They must not be allowed to spread these ideas any further. But even as he spoke, the Emperor knew that something fundamental had already changed. The humans had shown the galaxy a new kind of strength, one that might prove more powerful than any the hegemony had ever known. The day of the final trial arrived. The entire station buzzed with excitement. For the first time in the history of the combat trials, a newcomer species had reached the final round. The humans would face the Jarek champions themselves. Before the battle, Captain Ellie Reeves did something unexpected. She requested an audience with Emperor Krazoth. The request was so unusual that the Emperor granted it out of curiosity. Ellie stood alone in the vast imperial chamber. Emperor Krazoth towered above her on his throne, surrounded by his most trusted advisors. "You show courage coming here alone, human," the Emperor said. "What do you wish to say before your defeat?" Ellie looked directly into the Emperor's vertical pupils without fear. "I've come to propose an alternative to the final trial." Murmurs of surprise rippled through the chamber. "You wish to surrender?" Krazoth asked, his voice betraying amusement. "No," Ellie replied calmly. "I propose that humans join the hegemony as equals, bringing our unique capabilities as assets rather than threats." The chamber fell silent. Such a proposal was unprecedented. "You speak boldly for a species that controls only one small solar system," the Emperor said. "What could you possibly offer as equals?" "You've seen what 4 humans can accomplish in your combat trials," Ellie said. "Imagine what millions could do as allies rather than enemies." She paused, then added, "Also, Earth's historians have already deciphered much of the hegemony's communication systems. Reinforcements are likely already on the way." V'Kalor stepped forward. "Is this true? Your species understood our transmissions. Just as we learned your language, studied your physiology, and adapted to your combat techniques," Ellie confirmed. "Humans are quick learners." The Emperor studied her for a long moment. "I will witness the final combat before deciding humanity's fate." The final battle arena was designed to mimic open space warfare. Each side controlled small fighter craft and a command center. The Jarek champions took their positions, ready to demonstrate their dominance one final time. But the humans had other plans. As the battle began, the audience noticed something strange. The humans weren't fighting to destroy their opponents. Instead, they were demonstrating their unique capabilities in ways that highlighted what humanity could offer the hegemony. Jack flew his fighter in formations that protected the Jarek craft from simulated asteroid collisions rather than attacking them. Lissa used her knowledge of alien physiology to rescue a Jarek pilot when his life support systems failed. Daniel created defensive positions that benefited both sides against environmental hazards. From her command position, Ellie coordinated it all, showing how humans could integrate with existing hegemony forces to create something stronger than either could achieve alone. The audience watched in confusion, then gradually in understanding. This wasn't a battle, it was a demonstration. Emperor Krazoth rose from his viewing platform. "Halt the combat," he commanded. The simulation froze. "Captain Reeves," the Emperor's voice boomed across the arena. "You choose not to fight when given the chance for victory." Ellie's voice was steady as she replied. "We choose to show you that the deadliest warriors in the universe know when not to fight. Real strength comes from turning enemies into allies." 3 days later, in a formal ceremony, humanity was officially recognized as a member of the Galactic Hegemony. The combat trials were reformed, becoming cooperative exercises rather than battles for dominance. The Jarek remained powerful, but now worked alongside humans as partners. Captain Reeves became Earth's first ambassador to the hegemony, while her crew trained a new generation of interspecies tactical teams. In the private archives of the Xeric Empire, Emperor Krazov recorded his final thoughts on humans. The species we once dismissed as weak has transformed our understanding of strength itself. Humans are indeed the deadliest warriors in the universe, not because they can destroy their enemies, but because they can turn their enemies into friends. This is a power we never imagined, and one we must learn to wield ourselves if the hegemony is to survive the challenges that lie ahead. On Earth, as the first Xeric diplomatic ship landed to formalize the alliance, humanity prepared to step into the stars not as conquerors, but as teachers of a new kind of warfare, one that united rather than divided, that built rather than destroyed. It was, after all, what humans had always done best.